Prince Harry's missing visa application, and the reason why, of course, it's being kept away and under lock and key. And now this, according to this particular report, Meghan and Harry and the missing millions. What's the true story behind that? As ever, let me explain. Hi, good to see you today. Thank you so much as ever for joining me in this lush greenery that is, of course, the beautiful Hyde Park at this time of year. And we're just capturing, aren't we? Well, you can see one of the trees there is going, isn't it? It's already, yes, this is the thing. Are you going? You're dropping off, aren't you? I can tell. Stop it. Yes. Look alive, at least. You know, we'll put some effort in here. We're out and about in this lush green, bringing you all this fresh air. Let me, yes, breathe in. Get those lungs expanded. Get some, yes. Well, you can see it's windy now. Well, look, yeah, look like Ken Dodd. That's the problem. But anyway, let's get back to your royal story before I get blown away. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Anyway, listen, let's get back, as I say, to your royal story of the day. What's fascinating here is this big headline, and it's another mega negative headline, as one can imagine. There we have it, of course, Harry and Meghan and the missing millions. Now, earlier this year, if you remember, there was the same sort of story about the fact that they'd forgotten to send the cheque off. I mean, who sends a cheque in this day and age to pay for their tax return, which made their company, shall we say, in a very precarious state. Now, Archwell itself, like a lot of companies, are really struggling because they are a charitable foundation. Yeah, right. And the thing is, you see, with all charitable foundations, and I've pointed this out many times before, charity begins with them at the top, you know, the CEO's salary, and then it gets trickled down, even non-for-profit. There's always things they suddenly add in, the running of the office, you know, paper clips, you name it, they'll find something to spend your money on. So while you're schlepping around with your can outside a supermarket, they're spending big. Don't worry about that. Now, what's fascinating here is this particular thing is basically saying, well, where are the donations on their tax return? Now, it looks very suspicious, as you can imagine. But let me explain how this works. And in this particular instance, it's actually in their favour. Basically, it's a big headline grabbing thing. But that particular donation didn't fall under the remit of when it should have been included in this tax return. Do you understand? Now, they've done nothing wrong unless, of course, they've spent that money and it's now not going to be declared in the next tax return. But moving forward, this is a bigger issue because this just looks suspicious. They should have been very clear about this before they let that tax return out, or indeed their accountant. He should have put a little caveat in there basically saying this is why this isn't in, and it just looks bad. How badly could you run a company as Archwell? Seemingly very bad. But now the problem is this. Any potential donors or anything like that make it look very suspicious because they will then suddenly think, hang on a minute, what happens to the money? And even Meghan and Harry themselves know that this doesn't play out particularly well, because if you wanted to donate into Archwell, whatever they're doing, nobody's quite sure what their charitable organisation is, there lies your problem. And they know, of course, that headlines like this don't go away, like the late tax return and now this. But on this particular instance, it isn't actually their fault. And as ever, I have to say, I'm not part of their team. I'm not an ambassador. I'm not getting paid. I'm telling you the facts. They are the facts. But the problem is, it just looks bad. And this is exactly what the mainstream media have seized upon. Now, for Harry and Meghan, they've got to be sure 100% that these donations are very much flagged up in the next tax return, because people will be waiting and watching. Neil Sean, Hyde Park, London.